top 10 then. At number 12, Bird. An email from Martijin Taha.
Yeah.
This movie was a bit of an odd one. A bit of an odd one out at the Imagine Fantastic Film Festival in Amsterdam between stuff like Violent Nature and Heretic. I am with Mr. Kermode. It's okay. I could take the leap of faith with The Magic Realist Past, but it still didn't work for me. Maybe it felt like Andrea Arnold maybe thought it was getting a bit too much of poor people in abusive relationships, misery porn, and so she tagged on some escapism. I also am done with the shaky, handheld digital video look. Not as bad here as in the extremely ugly Evil Does Not Exist, but still bad. Oh, wow. If you're not a native English speaker like me, it is also sometimes a bit hard to understand what is being said. I saw the movie without subtitles through a combination of the bad miking thing Mr. Mayo mentions and street slang. Okay, so that's Bird at number 12. Anyway, Marta Ginter agrees with you, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Andrea Arnold's weakest film, but I think that even when she's, it was my film of the week because I think that even when she's off form, she's still phenomenally more interesting than most filmmakers out there. It is strange that Barry Keoghan is in it so little, considering that that it was this rather than Gladiator 2. But I think it's deeply flawed. But I still think Andrea Arnold is a major filmmaker, and I'll watch anything she does.
Do you remember that email we had a while back now from someone speaking up for dubbed TV and dubbed films because it enables you to concentrate on the acting and the face acting and so on, rather than your eyes tearing across the bottom of the screen? And I watch almost everything with subtitles, and I'm very glad that it's there. But there is certainly something that is true, particularly if you're watching a foreign language film or TV series, that you're reading so fast. I think you do miss some of the acting. You do miss some of the drama. So
my problem is that that when you get dubs is that you're getting a different performance. I mean, I think that's like, as was just that example of us playing that clip just now, which I then translated afterwards. But the reason that we played the clip was so that you could get a sense of the tone of it. A dubbed clip would have a completely different tone.
Number 10 is Piece by Piece.
Yeah, I mean, unsurprisingly, it's just skimmed the top of the top 10, and then it'll be gone. I mean, I quite liked it, but I'm not sure it's an entire feature film.
Honora is at number 9.
Fabulous. I mean, Sean Baker is just one of the great humanist filmmakers of our time. I loved Honora. It is showing up on...
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, he makes films that have great compassion and empathy for human beings. They are non-judgmental. They are films about people and the way in which people really experience the world. And I think it is something of a rarity in cinema, particularly in bigger budget cinema. And I think that Sean Baker has just made a career of making films about marginalized characters whose lives are fully represented and understood. And they ooze empathy. And consequently, I mean, this is an absolute thrill ride of a film anyway, because it's like Into the Night. You are torn through the action, but you believe in and care about all the characters.
Blitz is at number 8. Some listener comments here. Michael on our YouTube channel. There were great sound. Okay, so this is picking up on the fact that Paul Weller is making his acting debut. Yes,
brilliantly, I thought.
So first of all, someone who wants to be called "Why isn't it possible?" Considering it's Paul Weller's first film role, I guess you could say he's an absolute beginner in the world of acting.
Hey,
continuing up on where we left off, yes. Mink, you ate. Oh, just call yourself Brian or something. Mink, anyway. So this is set in the city then. Alex says, guess that's entertainment. And Michael on YouTube, there were great sound effects in the movie. That's enough, Ed, I think. 7 is Smile 2.
Which I really enjoyed. Great popcorn entertainment.
Small Things Like These at 6.
Doing brilliantly in independent cinemas. At the Act 1 in Acton, they've been virtually turning people away, and apparently it's caught people slightly off guard because it's so low key that there was a worry that it kind of might pass unnoticed. But no, people are really, really liking it, and again, an absolute showcase for the brilliant do little but do much acting of Cillian Murphy.
The Wild Robot is at number 5.
Beautiful to look at, sentimental, moving, and, works for kids of all ages.
Venom: The Last Dance at 4.
utter pants. And I don't get it, but hey, there's a couple of good gags in it, and I like the cast and I like the director, but I just thought it was a complete car crash of a film.
Heretic is at number 3.
Huzzah for late period Hugh Grant. I mean, it's just, has there been a better time to be Hugh Grant than now? He must literally be sitting at home thinking, well, gosh, I am
Gosh and crikey.
Gosh and crikey, I am just fabulous at the moment.
And of course, there's more Hugh Grant at number 1. But first of all, number 2, Red One, Dear Santa and Krampus. I can't help but feel that Mark was channeling the Grinch last week with his review of Red One. I was chatting with some friends who'd seen it, and all three of us had quite a good time. Quite a good time.
Quite a good time.
It's silly nonsense, but it's Christmassy silly nonsense with lots of heart, some great performances from the likes of J.K. Simmons and Lucy Liu, and had loads of practical stunts and prosthetics. Yes, admittedly somewhat drowned out by an overuse of CGI monsters. But then I heard Mark say that he didn't like Jingle All the Way either. So maybe that's it. Us 90s kid millennials grew up on stuff like that and loved it. So perhaps we're that elusive audience that Mark was wondering who this was for. Merry Christmas, Ho and Bar Humbug from Ian in Finchley. Chris Douglas in Gloucester. We loved it. Yes, it's daft with naff CGI, tumbleweed gag moments, inexplicable elements like Santa's buffness obsession, though he shrinks to get down chimneys, and a sackload of other anomalies. But it made us laugh well into double figures. And what's the target audience? Who's the target audience? A 13-year-old boy, a Christmas-obsessed 17-year-old girl, a 19-year-old university student, and 2 knackered parents, both the wrong side of 50. So thank you, Chris Douglas. Soapbox Stereo on our YouTube channel. It's like a Christmas movie you'd see in Tropic Thunder. And Rob T says Chris Evans is the shining light in the slop that is this film. That is Red One at number 2.
Well, I mean, look, the people that wrote in and enjoyed it, and the thing about Jingle All the Way, then I'm really glad. And all I can say is, I can only be honest. I loathed it. I thought it was cynical claptrap, and I didn't laugh once. But it does go to show that, in the words of my great friend, in the end, there's only one review, which is it's all right if you like that sort of thing, and I don't.
And the number 1 movie is, of course, Paddington in Peru, and Hugh Grant does turn up right at the very end and also at the very, very end.
Is it a spoiler to say that, though?
Do you think? I mean, what's it spoiling?
No, I suppose so. I mean, I wasn't sure whether Hugh would make an appearance. And then when he did, I thought the screen lit up. But it was one of those classic things. Like I saw Sanj over the weekend, and Sanj was talking about the fact that we were talking about, saying that the thing that Paddington in Peru needed was more Sanjeev. He was, incidentally, I was with him at a function over the week. He was rocking a tuxedo. They should cast him for James Bond. He could absolutely do Bond. He brushes up really well, and then Hugh Grant steals the movie. He's not even buff. It's like he's got. You know how it is sometimes. Some people, they put a suit on, and it's like you go. You know that moment in old movies when there's a secretary with glasses on, and then she suddenly lets her hair down, and someone goes, "But Miss Jones, you're beautiful." Sanj, who I've always thought was a decent looking man, turns up in this tuxedo. You go, "Wow," wow.
So Paddington in Peru, Michael Cagill from Speech Therapists Sanctum. We've had the origin story, the crime caper, and now the action adventure, proving this little bear can fit into a variety of genres, a full-blown musical next, perhaps. Well, that is happening, as we mentioned in the interview last week. This film kept us chuckling along all the way through, with the possible exception of one beautifully executed and age-appropriate jump scare, which led to hand-grabbing and eye-covering by my family, who shared Mr. Brown's antipathy for one particular purple-kneed animal. I enjoyed the ongoing building of Paddington's backstory, and watching the 3 films in close succession. The opening segments form a little trilogy on their own, only working backwards each time and revealing the events in a fashion reminiscent of Memento. Love the show, Steve, and up with purple-coated immigrants and reminding us that there is so much more to everyone than where you come from, and that crossing borders with an open and honest heart should be something to be celebrated, not feared. Au contraire, says Peter Fogarty, utterly disappointing. None of the magic that makes a real Paddington film, none of the kindness and compassion that always brought a tear to my eye in the previous films. Looking for the good in others and finding it is what makes a Paddington film, not empty platitudes and rehashing gags from the other films. Remember this bit? Emily Mortimer has the impossible job of filling Sally Hawkins' shoes and can't do anything with the little material she's given. With the way the world is at the moment, I was looking forward to a bit of genuine goodwill at the cinema, but this felt like a cheap cash grab.
Ooh.
A couple of chuckles really pales in comparison to the consistently funny previous installment. Also, the messages in the film felt so hollow. Tribe versus family. The tribe were just a bunch of CGI bears who weren't even named characters. Not a real Paddington film, I'm sorry to say.
Wow.
Anyway, Paddington in Peru is number one. I think that's a little harsh, Mr. Fogarty.
I think it's a little harsh. I mean, I think it is the weakest of the Paddington films, and it suffers from that sequel problem, which is, what do we do? Let's send them abroad. And once you take Paddington out of London, you do kind of defuse the central thing, which is that he's a bear at large in London, and therefore it's a way of looking at, the kind of emblematic of the UK. But I mean, I enjoyed it enough, and I didn't love it and I didn't hate it, and so I'm somewhere in the middle. I do think that the bit we've now talked about, I think Hugh Grant at the end is Fabaruni, and literally stay till the very, very end, and then go to the cinema next door and watch Heretic.
Well, yes, except what I was going to say was, if it is quite useful to have a film in the cinema, particularly going into Christmas with time off, you can go with your parents and you can go with your kids, and it's perfectly good, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. And yes, everything that you said is true. It is the weakest of the three, but you can all go and you can have a good time and you can all laugh at the same time.